Telkom has kicked off its 2025 financial year strong. South Africa's third biggest mobile operators group, core profit climbed almost a quarter in the 3 months to end June, with margins picking up amid both revenue growth and stringent cost management. Business Day's business writer Mudiwa Gavaza joins us now for a further look into the performance. Thank you so much for your time, Mudiwa. Actually, just contextualize that growth for us that we saw in the first quarter of FY25. Was it just coming from a low base from first quarter of FY24, or are we actually seeing strong, good, sustainable growth from here on out?
Well, I would characterize it by saying that the previous periods, especially last year, weren't particularly the best.
Yeah.
So there is somewhat of a base effect that is there, but you cannot deny the fact, and you see that base effect more on the top line.
Yes.
Because whilst your EBITDA is growing by, about almost 25%,
yes,
your top line is only growing,
it's still single digits.
It's still single digits, right? So a lot of that is being attributed to what they call new generation revenues. And basically the easiest way to think about it is Telkom has traditionally been a fixed line business.
Yes.
And they used to use copper. In terms of, the towers that they have, the cabling, it was copper-based, and then it was fixed-line business. Now they're a business that is mobile, that is using fiber, data, right? That's where the majority of the revenue is coming from.
And is that speaking to the evolution of the company being more tech-based, more infrastructure-based?
I think they could see that the writing was on the wall. There've often been debates about whether or not Telkom should have let go of its stake in Vodacom all those years ago or not, because just if you were to take a conservative 15%, of Vodacom, that would have been, an amount that's double their current, current market cap. But that's besides the point. At some point, they understood that they had to reduce reliance on the fixed line business, get into mobile, invest more into fiber and all of that stuff, right? So this is where they find themselves. But it's only, I did a quick check of the books yesterday, and I found that just as early as 2018, September 2018, fixed line was 53% of their business.
So it was still very chunky.
Yeah, it was a huge part of their business.
Yeah.
So the fact that now we're talking about these other businesses accounting for now 81% of revenue means that there has been a turnaround, at least in the makeup of what is driving, Telkom's business.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece to also understand, as much as we talk about fixed line and the decline and all that, it's not to say that Telkom is no longer in the fixed line business.
I was going to ask if the plan is to completely let go of that, or we just look at this decreasing contribution from it as really a good thing.
So basically, the way that they've been going about it is to take what was existing and modernize it, right? So if you think about the fact that once upon a time, if you wanted dial-up internet at your house, right, you had those very old, creaky and very noisy modems from back in the day. Then it was ADSL, which was basically your normal phone lines, your copper phone lines. But now that same internet at your house is being offered through fiber, right? And in the same way, when it comes to fixed line is still a business, but now instead of your traditional phone lines and copper, they're now using the internet and fiber, right? So you're still offering, think about an office building like ours, right? We still have phones at our desks, and a lot of that routing is actually going through fiber networks and the internet, right? So the existing businesses, they were still there. It's just that people don't call each other as much as they did back in the day. But there is still a need, especially if you think about your corporates and business clients. You definitely still need, some of those components.
It's been quite interesting because I was talking to an analyst yesterday, and he was mentioning the fact that the performance of the company is going in the right direction, but the share price isn't. Of course, today we're seeing a an uptick of about 4%, but it still doesn't make up for the downward pressure that we've seen on the share price this year. And you mentioned something about, legacy issues, and I'm wondering if that is still an overhang in terms of maybe what we're seeing on investor sentiment, or is that just a function of something else?
I think the market is waiting to see if the current growth trajectory can be sustained, for a long period of time, right? What has remained sustained in Telkom's case, for example, is the fact that they are the fastest growing mobile network, right? That's in a relative sense, because you've got your Vodacom at 45 million subscribers, you've got an MTN at around 35 million subscribers, and Telkom at 21, right? Now at 21. But in terms of rates of growth, right, they're the ones that have been adding. Right, it's just a couple of years ago that we're talking about Telkom at 12 million, mobile customers. So they've been growing, but now it's, can they continue to sustain growth on mobile? Fiber, can they continue to grow that? And then also at the same time, data, because that's always been their stated strategy. Can they maintain, this type of thing?
Yeah, and it's actually quite interesting because, I'm sure some investors would be looking at the fact that, you mentioned the kind of maturity that we're seeing in Vodacom and MTN, and maybe Telkom, considering the rates of growth, that could actually have more upside. Just on that subscriber growth, they also managed to grow that significantly. Is that also a signal of market share gains from MTN and Vodacom?
Tough one. And I say a tough one because South Africa is a market that is characterized by multiple SIM cards, right?
Oh, yeah.
People are having multiple SIM cards. Right now, if you were to do the quick maths, as I said, MTN roughly 35, Vodacom roughly 45, right? Just those two alone, you're at 80 million. Then you say Telkom with 21, that's 101, and then let's add Cell C with another 12 to 13, right? So already you are sitting you're sitting between a 110 and 115 million SIM cards in the market in a country with 60 million.
Okay, I know. Okay, when you look at it like that,
So when you look at it like that, and it's also one of the reasons why companies, almost all the operators, are more concerned about increasing what's called ARPU, which is the average revenue per user. Right, and which is why they're pushing a lot on data, for example, because they want to increase usage, right? So each person, let's get each person to spend more money as opposed to trying to get more and more subscribers onto our network, because you literally, it's the same people.
Okay, all right, telecoms wars. Thank you so much for enlightening us on that and Telkom's performance in the first quarter of FY25. And that was Mudiwa Gavaza, business writer for Business Day.